Hi, everyone. We're going to talk about Atlanta really soon, but first, I want to let you know about two exciting things happening at The Ringer. Number one, chef and Momofuku founder Dave Chang has his own podcast on the Ringer Network. It's called The Dave Chang Show, which you can find wherever you listen to podcasts. It launched this week. His first episode is with Bill Simmons, and it's about what it was like opening Major Domo, which is an excellent restaurant here in Los Angeles. So, again, you can subscribe to The Dave Chang Show wherever you get your podcasts. Number two, our fearless robot leader, David Shoemaker, is doing a Westworld Recappables. It's its own feed because people just really need as much time with their theories about the robots as they possibly can get. So if you are a fan of Westworld, if you are a fan of David Shoemaker, if you're a fan of the many other Ringer staffers who will be guests on that show, look for it. It's its own feed, Westworld Recappables. And now we're going to talk about Atlanta. Hello, and welcome to The Recappables, a podcast on the Ringer Podcast Network. I'm Amanda Dobbins, the culture editor for The Ringer. Today, I am joined by Allison Herman.
Greetings.
And Justin Charity.
Let's get this money.
And we are here to talk about Atlanta, specifically north of the border, episode 9.
Hey, man, if you want this money, we need this college fan base. And, first it's this, then it's Spring Fling, and that's $60K guaranteed.
The chickens have come home to roost for Earn, for Paperboy, for everyone. This was a pretty plot-heavy episode.
And ensemble-heavy?
Yes.
This is the first time that Donald Glover has been a meaningful character on his own show for basically half the season.
Yes. Meaningful, yes. Inspiring character, no, which
No.
we'll come back to. That's Earn, not Donald Glover. Respect to Donald Glover. Charity, give me the basic plot breakdown.
Okay. So the boys this time around. The ensemble is the boys.
Yes.
So we got Tracy,
Yes.
Earn, Paperboy, Darius.
Yes.
And they got to get in a car and they got to go play a show with a bunch of college kids for free. Mm-hmm. Which already the logic of this, right? It's a free show that Paperboy is going to do.
Yeah, do you recall the name of the free show? Because it's Pajama Jam. So that's something we should talk about.
We should talk about it when we talk about the costuming for this episode.
That's true.
Who said
really
Meryl
great.
Streep has the monopoly on loungewear?
It's a great point. All right. So they're playing the Pajama Jam.
Right, and I should say Tracy's not supposed to go. Originally, the episode begins and it's Earn and Paperboy being like, "We got to go," and Tracy recruits himself. Mm-hmm. He promises Paperboy's like, "Oh, I'll be the security," which that's the setup for all four of them going.
Yep.
He goes from almost getting shot because he's not actually supposed to be in Paperboy's apartment to being a member of the entourage in record time.
In fairness, that is how hip hop works. So, it's actually not that.
I feel like that's how all house guests work. It's like you're still here 3 months later.
I find Tracy's self-confidence and assurance really admirable. He has whatever the opposite of imposter syndrome is.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
him.
That's why he exists. All right, so they go to the Pajama Jam.
Well, they don't go straight to the Pajama Jam. They go to their lodging, I should say.
Yeah.
And the lodging, so basically Earn, because Earn is Earn, hasn't gotten a hotel, hasn't even gotten an Airbnb. Instead, he's linked up with this woman, I would say actually girl, because my first thought was it's a young woman with 300 Instagram followers. I bet they're setting this person up to be 16.
Right. Her name is Violet, and she has some interesting conversational habits, shall we put it that way?
And dreams.
Yeah,
Real
and
wild dreams.
Yes.
I had a dream about you. We were holding each other, naked, by this river. And you were this beautiful white crane. And I was this magnificent crocodile. And we were just laying there, holding each other for warmth. And then I ate you. There was blood everywhere.
But he survives.
Well, yeah, I mean, he survives at least until Pajama Jam.
Right.
right? And they're in this auditorium. They don't even get a green room. It's so disrespectful. They don't get a green room. They're just in an auditorium.
It's
all
a free show called Pajama Jam at a Statesboro college. I just am like, this is a little bit, what you see is what you get. Of course there's not a green room.
Yeah, can you give us some Georgia intel on like what Statesboro is?
Statesboro is a town south of Atlanta. I believe this is supposed to be Georgia Southern. That's the university that is in the actual Statesboro. And it's pretty much what you see. This seems like an accurate representation. I don't know. I would, and we can come back to this, but knowing what I know about Statesboro and also the music industry, I would not go to a free show called Pajama Jam in Statesboro, but that's just me.
You're saying you wouldn't go now, or you wouldn't have gone at the time of the age of the characters who were at Pajama Jam?
That's a great question.
Because I would be all for some Pajama Jam. I went to Georgetown, though. It's a little different. But I went to some Pajama Jams.
I mean, I suppose everyone in college is susceptible to the party theme, especially on campus, myself included. The distinction I would make here is that Paperboy, Darius, and Tracy don't actually go to this college. So they're electing to drive in a car a decent distance to attend Pajama Jam for free.
Yeah, the logic here is a little suspect. The idea is that they'll acquire a college audience and then they can get the $60K gigs that will actually pay.
Right.
This is clearly not one of them. Although the college circuit is definitely a reliable thing for rappers. When I was in college, some of our like spring fling artists were like Wiz Khalifa and Lupe Fiasco and Macklemore, which was regrettable. But
yeah, it's a tough one.
No one was appreciated, but I'm sure they made money.
I saw Coolio perform.
Okay, you win.
The Georgetown cafeteria.
You had way better bickers than we did.
2007.
Yeah,
it happened.
No one would come to New Hampshire. Okay, Pajama Jam happens, and then.
Well, this Pajama Jam really it's like Pajama Jam almost. Basically, they're in the holding area, the green room, which is really just, again, it's sort of outside of the auditorium. And mind you, Tracy's the security. The Tracy we all know and love, who is just like incompetent and has no real skills as a security. And I believe it's Violet is the one who like is standing above Paperboy when Paperboy is sort of talking to some other girls and jealously like pours a drink on his head or pours a little bit of a drink on his head to interrupt him. And then Tracy rushes off and he's playing the security role, and basically push comes to shove and he accidentally shoves a girl down the stairs.
Oh, not accidentally.
No, not accidentally. Sorry. Push comes to shove.
Literally.
Because he turns away. He does it.
Push
it's just
comes to shove, and then he shoves.
Yes.
It was kind of a like,
but
get out of here shove, but he clearly wasn't considering that she is on top of a staircase.
And the way that it's filmed, it's a very slow-mo of her tumbling for 3 steps in a way that I was quite nervous. I was like, oh my God, there's about to be a traumatic head injury, and I really am not prepared for it
someone's
to go
getting
I thought it was going to be blood.
Yeah. So thankfully that doesn't happen in that Ern catches her. But then the girls, so her name's Violet.
Violet, thank you. Violet's brother is also at the concert and just sees basically the altercation between Violet and Tracy and rolls up with all of his boys. And by that point, Tracy's already run back to Paperboy. So now it's this standoff between Ern, Darius, Tracy, and Paperboy. And then there's just mob of people who actually go to the college. And they spill out onto the sidewalk. And Ern is like, okay, I'm going to, this is diplomacy. I got this. This is what I do.
And we listening, nigga. What?
Watch your tone.
Hey,
man.
relax, this dude, man.
Relax.
You want to square up?
No. Relax. It's cool. Okay, listen. We're all here to have a good time. Black people, just non-violent. We're trying to...
Run, nigga, run!
And it seems like it's settling down. And then out of nowhere, Tracy throws the longest punch across the screen and hits the brother in the face and knocks him to the sidewalk. And then he's like, okay, I did that, but there are all these other guys. And so he tells them all to run. And so they run through like all of the buildings of the school, and they run to the point where basically the whole group of people loses track of them, and then they're lost in the woods.
Tracy is definitely the kind of person you need security from.
All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna do Tracy in a minute. Charity, they don't end up in the middle of the woods. They end up outside a frat house.
Well, but I thought at first they were briefly in the... Maybe I was thinking of the last episode too much. I thought that they were kind of wandering for a bit and it's dark and they're just sort of like, where are we? And then they arrive.
You've isolated a theme that has run throughout this season, which is these characters wandering around in unfamiliar locations where it definitely looks like they're entering a horror film. And they're like wandering around in this, and then suddenly they're entering the horror film of this Southern fraternity, which that just becomes a real thing.
Can we talk about how like the first hint they pick up on where they are is Darius says he smells citronella.
No, here's what he says. He smells hats, weed, citronella. Right. And then he's led to the frat house, and then he goes, that explains the citronella.
Right.
Darius is just a font of insight. His rules about Instagram follower accounts, I thought, were also ones to live by.
Exactly. So they go into this frat house, and then the next shot is just, I'm just going to... I watched this on my computer in an office setting, and people were walking kind of behind me as I was watching this, and I was like, this is not great.
I forewarned you.
A great time. And it wasn't even, so we should say, we received an advanced screener, which contained full frontal nudity. And if you watched it on FX tonight, you did not get the full frontal nudity because they apparently had to cut it from the cable. But if you go to the FX app, you may experience what I experienced and what Allison and Charity experienced all in a professional setting, which was a group of pledges, quote, pledges to this fraternity, totally naked except for paper bags on their head, in two lines, lined up in front of a truly giant Confederate flag. And then they had to do a dance to Laffy Taffy with full frontal.
All right, players, get the fuck up. Gonna do this dance for our new friends. Girl, shake that laffy taffy. That laffy taffy. Shake that laffy taffy. Stop, y'all.
Giving dick swinging a whole new meaning.
It was quite something. How about that?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I've lived in a fraternity house. I wouldn't say I've never seen it before. The general, the contours of the situation.
I felt like there were a lot of elements coming together, and I was like, okay, this is not what I was expecting in this office. But
it's also, I mean, you talked about the idea of them always, or this season, a lot of the characters seeming like they're on the outskirts of a horror film.
Yes.
And I will say that when they first get to the frat house, the way it's lit is very, shall I say, tiki torchy. And then when they get inside, there's just a huge Confederate flag behind Earn and Paperboy on the couch. Yeah. It's some scary shit.
The one shot of those guys in the line, and I assume that this will make it to FX because it's shot from behind, so it's just their butts. And thank you to Nez Franz for like pioneering bare butts on TV so that we could get to this moment. But I do think that shot of the two lines with the Confederate flag framing it was quite scary. And the paper bags on their heads, it was a lot.
It's scary, although it plays out a little less. Like, one of the things I actually really liked about this episode is that they break the tension by having Earn and Paperboy just recognize how insane this is and just burst out laughing.
Yes.
Because I certainly, I think I was creeped out until the moment Laffy Taffy started, and then I was just in hysterics.
Yeah. All of that happens, and then we kind of get to the heart of the episode, and kind of that was a lot of plot, but setting us up to the actual season arc, which happens after the pledges have been dismissed. Charity, what happens?
Well, so Earn and Paperboy are just sort of on the couch. They've been smoked out. They're finally having this respite in this episode that has otherwise been very stressful so far. Mm-hmm. And Paperboy wants to have this heart-to-heart with Earn, and Earn thinks that Paperboy finally is realizing that, Tracy is crazy, and he's obviously very bad at security. Look at this terrible situation we're in. And Paperboy's like, nah, the problem is you. We're here in the first place playing a free concert that went off the rails. Like, what are we doing? And then he brings up that he's been talking to the rapper Clark County, the popular sort of sellout rapper Clark County's management.
The Yoo-hoo rapper.
The industry plant.
The industry plant, as they call him, as Darius calls him, back at Pajama Jam. But Paperboy reveals that he's been talking to Clark County's management and that he's basically he thinks he's going to sign a deal with them to be his new manager. And that means Earn has to go.
So after 9 episodes, we're finally here. Earn has been, well...
Yeah, Atlanta's not a predictable show as a whole.
Exactly.
But they've really been planting these seeds for a while.
Yeah.
In the moment, it's sort of once Paperboy makes it clear that he thinks the problem is Earn doesn't actually say a lot.
He doesn't say anything.
He doesn't say anything. He stands up, he walks very slowly out of the room in the strange, scary fraternity house. And that's all we get for that moment is Earn saying nothing and just sort of balling his fist and walking off screen.
Look, you family man, and I'm trying to ride with you, but sometimes that shit ain't enough, bro. Because money is important. I see exactly what's happening out here. It's getting colder. It's getting harder to eat. I need shit. Lottie needs shit. You need shit. I gotta make my next moves my best moves, man, so something gotta shake. I don't think you cut out for it.
Yeah, really like proving everything that Paperboy says to him right. Like Paperboy says, you're not cut out for this. And it's not really malicious. It's just a factual statement. And then Earn proceeds to demonstrate how poorly suited he is to advocate for himself, let alone someone else, by just being like, okay, and then going off to lick his wounds and indulge in what Cat Williams called that chip on your shoulder shit.
Yeah. It almost felt a little anticlimactic in the sense that we have been waiting for this really since episode 2, I would say, or maybe episode 3, Fake Spotify. And it becomes very clear that there is another path that Paperboy is interested in, and there are managers who are interested in him, and Earn is really out of his depths. And it's kind of like the season took a 4-episode detour of various character studies and whatever until we kind of came to this point that we knew was coming.
But Atlanta likes to do this thing where like the really conceptual stuff still builds and lays the groundwork for the really concrete stuff. So Al having this like really abstract, potentially imaginary vision quest in the woods leads directly to like a very concrete business decision.
Right. So the business decision is made, or at least Al announces it. And then they all got to drive home.
Right. And they wait till morning to do this, which means they spend the whole night in the house, which I don't like thinking about.
Yeah.
They drive home. Wait, what's the sequence of events here? Because do they walk home or they drive home?
They take like a university shuttle, I think, back to where they were staying, where they have left their car and all their things in the possession of this person we last saw getting shoved down the stairs.
Right. And subsequent to that, the car is all banged up, and all of the belongings that the 4 gentlemen have left in the house that they were staying in are on the lawn. Just thrown out. They go through all the belongings that are thrown on the lawn. They see that they've been cut up, including the shoes, into some very interesting and artistic patterns.
Really innovative.
Yeah.
Yeah, Darius is beautiful. Like, I can't even be mad. I'm just impressed.
And so now there's this standoff outside of this apartment building, or they're dorms. Like it's dorm housing, but there's this standoff. None of the girls who are inside of the house are opening up. And mind you, it's like Earn hasn't really said anything. He hasn't said anything for a few minutes now. He's just sort of like mad. And so Earn just hauls off on the door and he pulls the fire alarm because his laptop is in there. And he has to get his laptop, and he's frustrated, and all he wants is to get his laptop and go home. And so he basically rains down Armageddon on this apartment complex to get his laptop back.
And Ern is always the person who's like, don't escalate this.
Right.
Don't cause trouble. We need to keep our eye on the prize. And then as soon as that's rendered kind of moot, he finally throws caution to the wind. And
He becomes Tracy for like a good minute.
Yeah. And so then they have to drive back, all four, in the car, which we've seen. It's kind of it's a flashback to the drive out, certainly, but I was also reminded of kind of that interstitial in Teddy Perkins, which is kind of the only comic relief is the four of them in a car on much better terms. And then here they are, and everything kind of boils over. And Ern finally, well, does he stand up for himself? Is that how we would term it?
I think he's almost deliberate, or not almost. I think he knows that he doesn't stand a chance against Tracy. I think he just wants his internal pain to be externalized or some other psychoanalytic explanation. But I think like there have been these moments like the Michael Vick race where he thinks this is finally his big break and he's deluded into thinking he stands a chance. And I think here he's like, I'm not going to win this fight. I just need to get my aggression out or have some aggression taken out on me, which is maybe like an eighth of a psychological step forward, like pragmatism wise, but it's tough to watch.
We should say that Tracy's being in the final ride back. Tracy's just being really irritating in the car. He pulls out this antique pistol that he stole from the white boys at the frat house, and that's sort of what sets Ern off. And he finally starts talking, and he talks shit, and he's like, "Paperboy, pull over the car. I'm gonna fight him. I'm gonna fight Tracy. I'm gonna beat his ass."
Right. He's provoked into action.
Right.
Not unlike Al in the last episode, for what it's worth. Yeah.
They do get out of the car. Tracy very much is like, look, we don't have to do this. Like, come on. Like, come on. And Tracy's the tallest of the four. I should say he's he's the most built of the four gentlemen.
Yes.
He's just got out of prison.
This is
not the person you want to be asking to fight you.
Yeah. It's like Ern fighting a tall man in a do-rag. It's just like, you size it up from across the screen. You're just like, all right, well, I guess we'll see how this is going to go.
And they show a lot of it in this wide shot that just lets you really revel in how much
it's hard
Ern is
to
struggling.
watch. I had a moment to myself of like, you can't show full frontal, but you can show this. Like I think everyone can handle both, but it's pretty real, and it ends up with Ern very much on the ground.
Ern is on the ground. There's a sort of faraway shot of Ern while everybody else piles back into the car, where Ern is struggling to stand up, and he looks really just bewildered and like he just got punched in the face a couple of times. And then he files back in the car, and then there's just like this shameful moment where it's like, well, Tracy won the fight. He literally just beat him up in front of all of these guys. It's this very primal moment. Like since the beginning of the season, like the first time Tracy and Ern meet, they're fighting over space. They're fighting over territory in Paperboy's apartment. And it sort of culminates with this very primal fight of two guys on a curb, establishing like who is the person who has Paperboy's favor, Tracy or Ern. And and it's Tracy inexplicably.
And then it's very Darwinian, but like Darius and Paperboy are not without culpability here. Like, I'm not one to give Ern any credit for anything, but they're kind of disappointingly tolerant of Tracy being an asshat.
Yeah, and I do kind of feel like the episode ends with all four of them back in the car, but they aren't the gang anymore. You know, like
they're disintegrated.
The various ruptures are kind of evident, and so it's sad, and it's very clear that how the episode started and how the season started is no longer the case. So it's a pretty eventful episode, I would say.
Yeah, it's also this really weird case of like Ern almost getting what he wished for.
Yeah.
Like Ern is always, of the two of them, is definitely way more focused on career and money and ambition. And he always wants Paperboy to focus on his career. And once Paperboy like takes his advice, he realizes that Ern is not a part of that, renewed focus on the career.
Yeah. So we do awards on the show. We've just got a couple on this one, but given that it's both a important, eventful episode and an episode where like a lot of things go wrong, we have the award for worst decision. There are a lot of people making mistakes on this episode, as essentially we just discussed at great length. Charity, you alluded to yours.
Okay, worst decision.
Yeah.
I get it. They wanted weed and they were tired. They should not have gone to that frat house.
Yeah.
Even before they saw the naked pledges. Like, I'm telling you, I know about that life. You see crazy white boys in the woods. They're really into rap. They're naked people. They're marching naked people around. Like, they have guns. Everything about this situation. I do like how they handle it and how they're not, again, totally terrified because there is this undercurrent in the end between Earn and Paperboy where it's like, well, white people are crazy. Like, what can you do about them? But you ain't need to go in that house.
No, it's true.
I feel like there's this whole secret history of Justin Charity that I'm getting glimpses of, but would like to hear more about.
No, it's a good point. And again, to call back to the horror theme that is running through this whole season, it's a real don't go in the house moment. And there have been a lot of those, but this is a very strong don't go in the house. There's no reason to.
There was weed in the house.
But there was weed
let's give him credit.
There's weed on the front porch. It's literally handed down to Paperboy. He didn't even have to step on the structure. But there was
once
more
you
inside.
step on the, no, that's not how frat house. You stepped on the structure. You stepped on that patio.
Yeah.
That was it.
All right.
It
No,
was
I don't
over.
disagree with you. You also, it is a strange choice to stay there all night. Like, after the Laffy Taffy dance, after the conversation where Paperboy essentially fires Earn, or at least states his intention to fire him, then they're just like there for several more hours.
Yeah, it's this weird echo of Van and the girls sticking around at Drake's till dawn once they have gotten their ill-gotten selfie.
Yes. The shot of them walking, doing kind of their own version of a walk of shame in their various satin pajamas, it's great.
I will say some frats do, like maybe they did a nice breakfast type situation that kind of redeemed.
What are you imagining?
You know what I mean?
What's on the menu?
I just think like a lot of bacon. Like it's a bunch of guys. They only really know how to cook bacon, but they probably have one of those big like electric skillet type situations. I don't know. They might have had bacon and
Don't
mimosas.
like rich
and
Southern
that's why.
frats have like private chefs? I definitely.
I think sororities might.
Yeah.
Come on now.
No.
It's a bunch of sloppy boys on the border. Like, come on. You're giving us way too much credit.
Yeah, it's not. It's a bunch of boys living like in really, really, really
I
gross
just really
circumstances.
wanted
the grossest.
I wanted Earn to like have a silver lining of that night.
Yeah.
So in my head, I hope he got a great breakfast.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Your worst decision is a decision by Earn. Do you want to share?
We talked about it earlier, but just the fact that, you know, he's getting this referendum on his abilities and personality and general suitability from his client/family member. When Paperboy tells him, like, you are not good enough to be my manager, he doesn't make any effort to disprove that. He doesn't take any actions. He doesn't say any words. And it's just this, like, really horribly self-defeating or self-fulfilling prophecy. And Earn's fundamental character trait / character flaw is his passivity. It's that he lets shit happen to him, which is exactly what he says he's afraid of becoming, but he doesn't take any affirmative steps. And I'm very curious where the future of Earn's character goes. Part of me like doesn't think it's inconceivable for Donald Glover to just like write his own character off the show. Maybe we won't see him next episode and we'll come back to him doing something else, but nothing about Earn's personality or actions has really led us to believe that either Paperboy is wrong or that he will take this as a wake-up call and fix himself.
You know, it's interesting. I said this felt inevitable. This had been teased for forever, and like we finally got there. And I don't mean to say that, one, it's definite, because you never know on this show or any television show, and also that it felt anticlimactic is unfair, but it just felt predetermined in a way that things often don't feel on Atlanta. And I do kind of wonder, a traditional television show would be like, this sets up the conflict for the next season of Earn is going to be doing his thing, and like, will Al succeed, and will they need each other, and will they come back together? And there is certainly a lot of dramatic material in that setup that Atlanta could explore, and I trust them to do it in an interesting way. But that does seem a little too predictable. I'm almost surprised that we got to where I thought we might get.
Yeah, I do think like it's not the season finale.
Yeah.
I think the season finale, if I had to guess, is going to be a little less predictable. I don't know who we're going to see. I don't know if Van's going to come back. I don't know if it's going to be Paperboy solo. I don't know if it's going to be Earn solo. But I do think like they had to get this out of the way.
Yeah.
Which, you know, 2 plot-heavy episodes in a whole season is fine.
No, and you need plot on a television show. It is just kind of interesting, especially after the last 4 episodes where I was in a space where I was just kind of used to bottle episodes and random experiments, and we'll mosey into things, and it is not quite jarring, but just surprising. Like, here we are back with forward plot.
Well, this is a show that also likes to, instead of moving forward, it goes deep. Yeah. So I do think like they've gotten what they can out of this like current dynamic of Paperboy deciding whether he wants to really commit and Earn not being able to kick his ass into gear. And then they finally, like, they need a big thing to happen so that they can set up the next like 5 or 6 weird battle episodes.
Right. My worst decision is bringing Tracy. It seems like it's kind of like a butterfly effect. Like, a lot of things would have gone very differently. I mean, and he's obviously the most exciting part of the episode in a way. The juxtaposition of like the hijinks and the pajama chase, which is very funny, and him almost throwing someone down a stairs, which was frightening. He really brings like that dramatic moments that you need in order to contrast with the kind of interior Al and Paperboy relationship.
Yeah, there's a really frustrating blindness about him. And if Paperboy is going to decide to commit, part of that is obviously like getting a better manager. Yeah. But part of that is also getting rid of your liabilities.
Yeah. I also just like, why are you stopping the car?
No, but that's honor. Like, come on now. I get why he ultimately stopped. Like,
I know.
They had to fight it out.
Yeah, I know, but that's just, it's such a male thing also.
Yeah,
Are you supposed to be on Earn's side, or are you supposed to be on Paperboy's side? Whose side are you supposed to be on at this point?
Well, first of all, I will say on this particular episode of the Recappables, we have heard a lot of Earn slander, and I will say in a few moments, I would like to mount a counter argument.
Well, why don't you go ahead? So we were going to do, instead of most valuable player, we were going to do least valuable player, because everyone is kind of fumbling through this episode. Justin Charity, take it away.
Okay, I would say Clark County's manager, right, who's the one who's jockeying for Paperboy's affections. I would say least valuable player. And here's the problem, I think.
This is a classic Charity take. But
why is it? Well, okay. I'm going to mount it.
This is a real deep cut.
Keep going.
because I think as much as we've focused on the idea that Earn doesn't stick up for himself and Earn has a hard time articulating his value, I think a lot of that is glossing over the fact that Paperboy doesn't do anything. He literally is a rapper who doesn't make any music.
I would like to push back against this.
No, well, okay, but let me get into it.
All right,
which is just to say that in the 2 seasons of the show, it's like the things that would lead Clark County's manager. I think a couple points. One, the things that would lead Clark County's manager to be interested in Paperboy have not really been set up by the show, and the sense in which Paperboy would look at Earn with this sense of you're not pulling your weight. It's just like, well, but Earn, as little weight as he somehow pulls more weight than Paperboy has ever pulled in the show since the first episode.
I disagree with that. I do think it's somewhat unfair to Earn to be like, okay, well, now I'm following your advice, and so I'm going to kick you out, like ignoring the fact that Earn has been pushing for this. I do think the way the show approaches Paperboy's career is not... It's not happening. It just drops like very oblique hints about like the new single has gone gold at the opening of episode 3, or like when we're at the Pajama Jam, they have performed. We just don't see it. Like, I just think the way the show conceives of Paperboy's career is like it's on a very gradual upward trajectory that's just not as like stratospheric as it could or should be. I think there is stuff happening. It's just understood to be off screen because that's not what the show wants to be about.
Maybe vaguely, but for me, the Spotify episode where Paperboy literally just refuses to do anything, it so undermines the idea of that, because it's literally a show dedicated to showing, like, Earn has done the thing. He set up the meeting with the people who have the money, and Paperboy's whole approach to it is, I'm just going to be a grump. I'm not going to talk. I'm going to not perform. I'm going to just totally botch this opportunity.
And Charity, there is some backup to this. In the last episode, when Al, Paperboy, is being confronted by the various authority figures or new people in his life, and he is he's hanging out with the Instagram star in the nail salon, and they're fighting a little bit about. They're fighting over whether she can take a picture of him, but they're really fighting about how one gets famous and what fame and success are, and is it. And she's willing to play the game, and he is really repulsed by the game and repulsed by the kind of the things that you need to do to be the things, at least, that you need to do to be her version of famous. And which from the Yoo-Hoo endorsement and kind of the clues that we've been given about Clark County, he is a little bit more willing to play that version of the game as well. And I don't know that the show presents Al as right or wrong on that particular issue. Like, he's reluctant, and you can understand why he's reluctant, but also he's a little recalcitrant, and it's like, do you want to be a rapper? Do you not want to be a rapper? So I think your point is well taken. It might just also be that they have not, that in cutting some of the plot corners, they haven't really established him as a rapper as much as you, Justin Charity, demand, which is a valid point.
Yeah, I've always just understood him to be, like, gradually ascendant, and we'll see things that happen as, like, a result of that ascendance. We just don't see it, which, yeah, I do think, like, sometimes it's cool that the show fast forwards past that, and sometimes it leads to, you know, ambiguities about things that are very important to its sense of place.
You sound like you trying to get Paperboy as a client. Like, well, you just go, okay, all right. No, Allison Herman.
Oh, that's me, rap manager, Allison Herman.
Well, you're obviously very, I don't know. It sounds like your manager, really. I don't
know, but can you blame the manager for trying to get a client? Isn't that what managers do?
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm suspicious of that guy. I don't know. It's like Clark County. That's the other thing. I look at Paperboy sort of gravitating toward him. And it's funny because you've seen Paperboy and Earn have dual reactions to a Clark County, like, viral song, and Paperboy hated it. And it's just like, wait, so your bright idea here as a struggle rapper, your bright idea is to gravitate toward this guy who's going to make you do these things that you established in previous episodes that you thought were embarrassing and no-goes for you creatively. This doesn't sound like great judgment.
As Paperboy's backseat manager, I think, like, the real best course of action for him is probably to find someone who, like, can respect his preferences, but is also just better connected and maybe more motivated than Earn is. But, like, for the purposes of the show, it helps to have kind of a false binary between either, like, the guy who keeps you real because he's a member of your family and he never makes you that uncomfortable or pushes you that far outside your comfort zone, and the guy who's just, like, a complete creature of industry sellout. But yeah, I think, you know.
Allison, could you imagine if Amanda was Paperboy's manager?
Yeah, I think, like,
what
of
if
the three
Paperboy
of
came
us,
to the Ringer?
the person best suited to actually manage a rap career is Amanda Dobbs.
Here's what I was going to say, and I agree with Allison. You know, option 3 is always the best option, the option we don't have. But Earn took him to Statesboro to perform in something called Pajama Jam for free. Like, I am not a manager, but I know that those are not terms I would agree to.
But here's the thing. So did Clark County's manager.
We don't
Clark
know
County's
if he was
manager
for free.
made the same decision.
We don't know if it was for free.
Here we go.
don't know if it was for free. I would like to see the rates. Okay? Let me know.
Over here looking for the tour
Yeah,
rider.
we're really proving my point here.
It's important to advocate for yourself. All right. Least valuable player, Allison.
So mine is just a tie between Tracy and Earn. They're the two most obvious choices. They're the two most accurate choices. I'm not so down on Earn that I'm just giving him the uncontested title, but they both act really badly and really stupidly and in really avoidable ways. And once again, I think if Paperboy were really acting from a total place of smarts and savvy, he would get both of them out of the entourage, not just Earn. I think we've covered the ground for those arguments well enough. I won't belabor it.
Yeah, it's not a happy time in the foursome. That's kind of that's what we walk away with. It's not great. No one's doing their best. I was going to say
Darius survived a murder-suicide. And
but listen, we saw what Darius can do in a crisis situation. And where is he now? He's just like chasing the citronella scent. What?
He coasted. He really coasted this episode.
I did love that there was like, hey, Tracy, there's no room for you. You're not actually going to be doing anything at this event. Meanwhile, Darius is just assumed to be tagging along, even though he serves no actual purpose besides bonhomie, I guess. Like,
yeah. And I mean, that makes sense, right? This is actually realistic. Groups of friends have their rough moments. And especially when like money and careers are involved. This was inevitable, and I think pretending otherwise would have been foolhardy. But no one comes out of this looking great. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I hope we go like fully out on the season on like not an upper note, but a relatively upper note.
Yeah, or I mean, I do think, and I don't think the show will do this, and I don't think the show should do this, but the 4 episodes preceding this, which kind of did follow these characters individually, did make the case that Atlanta has created enough of a world that you could follow them pretty individually. And if Darius got an episode and then kind of floated through the background of the other, and Earn was only on FaceTime for a couple episodes, I would still watch the show. It would still be compelling to me. In some ways, it would be more connected to real life.
To bring up a project from Donald Glover's distant past, this was something that girls had to deal with and didn't do a good job of.
Not at all.
I mean, they had a blow-up fight in episode 4, or in season 3, where the central foursome of that show basically, like, effectively ended their friendship, or would have ended their friendship if it was real life. And then the show went on for 3 more seasons without finding a really convincing way to bring them back together. And I also hope that Atlanta has done enough, and they've done enough solo episodes to be like, okay, even if these people either never hang out again or just don't hang out again for like a good long while, we can still exist as a show in a way that like makes sense.
I realize though sometimes groups of men just pretend stuff like this never happened and just move on with their life. Charity, you're nodding.
That's the real LVP of this episode.
Yeah.
It's masculinity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true. That's actually, I feel like that's a good LVP.
Please look at what written down.
Oh, my God.
I actually have it. Allison did not
she
see this
called it?
document, and I have masculinely written down as my answer for least valuable player. Charity,
I'm sorry.
Please defend
The concept of masculinity.
Okay, but first off, because they look really cute in them pajamas. So I feel like they I don't know. I mean, the camaraderie is still, that's the thing.
Yeah,
You're right.
it's
They
true.
make a lot of dumb decisions.
It's
they
true.
make them from a very
It's true.
masculine place. But there's a romanticism there. I don't know. I'll piece it together one of these days.
Okay, Charity will come back to defend masculinity. We will be back next week to talk about another episode of Atlanta. If I could offer some parting advice, it is do not go to a pajama jam for free. I give that to you, Allison Herman, and you, Justin Charity, and everyone who is listening. Demand at least $10 for your appearance at Pajama Jam. Thank you, everyone. We will be back next week.
Thank you, rap manager Amanda Dobbins.
Oh, God.
See y'all at Pajama Jam.
Nope. One last note, our theme song was made by our friends at songfinch.com. Check out Songfinch to turn your stories, memories, and even your feelings into a one-of-a-kind song by professional musicians. It makes the perfect gift for any occasion. That's songfinch.com.